All right, I just finished running an analysis of my room, and I'm about to discover the frequency response of my studio for the very first time. All right, let's check it out. Oh, what the hell is that? I'm the Lonely Rocker. This is I Don't Have a Band, and welcome to my slightly cockeyed home studio. DIY acoustic panels is an absolutely huge topic here on my channel, and I've taken a lot of pride in all of the build videos, I've done placement videos, and I've also tested them just to help you guys really tune your rooms for better mixing. Now, the one thing that I haven't done is run an analysis of my room to see what's actually going on here and see where my trouble areas are. Well, I'm going to do that today with the help of the fine people from IK Multimedia and their ARC system. What that is, it's a combination of analysis software, a specially tuned microphone, and a plugin that can actually do acoustic correction. So it'll read your room and it can compensate for any areas that you're having problems. Now, I'm really curious to see how my room is performing. I mean, I've definitely noticed an improvement since I've done the acoustic treatment, but I do recognize that I likely have issues here as well, and the ARC system is going to reveal that to me today. So I've got the microphone already set up, so why don't we jump in and get started. Frequency response is a measurement that calculates how accurately a sound is reproduced within a device, like headphones or speakers, or within an environment like a mixing studio. In simple terms, 0 dB on the graph represents where the actual frequency is, and the graph shows how each frequency within the full spectrum of sound is reproduced. It's either accurate, louder, or quieter. Now, when you're mixing and you're sitting there at your computer, your assumption is that what you're hearing coming through the speakers is exactly what your computer is playing. Now, that's not true because your environment, the equipment that you're using, your speakers, the materials on the walls, whether you have carpet or tiles, is all going to color the sound. Now, it's funny with sound, we use visual terms to describe things that are happening, like coloration. Now, we're not actually adding specific colors to sound. How would we do that? But it's just a way to describe what's happening. So what I thought I would do is create a visual for you. Now let's take a look at these walls here. I've got this blue light here and I'm shining it up on my beautiful red walls. I've hired a painter because I need to do some touch-ups and I want him to take a reading of this color so he can go to the paint store, order the paint, and match it as closely as possible so we can do some seamless touch-ups. Now, shining this blue light on the wall is actually coloring the wall a little bit, so what we're seeing is not exactly the color that's on the wall. We've got coloration. Now, if I take off the blue gel and shine a white light on the wall, well, now we can see something that's probably more representative of what the actual color is. That's assuming that this is white light and maybe it has a little bit of yellow in it, but these are things that we have to determine if we really want to know what color is on that wall. Now, sound is much the same way. As I said, your environment, your speakers, everything is coloring the sound. So the goal to create a really efficient mixing environment is to try and flatten that curve, have a very flat frequency response, so the critical decisions that we're making are far more accurate, and the idea is we're going to get to better mixes much faster. So hopefully that shines a little light on the concept of frequency response. All right, let's get started. So I'm actually working with ARC3, and it all begins with the MEMS measurement microphone. We're talking about this microphone here and not the one that I'm speaking into. So the way it works is you start with your listening position. Now, the optimal listening position in your studio, which will be represented by this microphone, the distance from this microphone to the two speakers is equal to the distance between the speakers, creating an equilateral triangle. If your studio is actually not set up, actually I've got some pointers for that. I'll put a link in the description if you need some help setting up your studio. But if you've got an optimally set up studio, which would be the most ideal, then the microphone is going to represent your listening position, and that would be position 1. From there, there's the analysis software is really, really simple to follow. There's actually 7 different positions. It's going to record readings from 3 different layers. So once you've calculated your listening position, we're going to call that position 1. That's actually in layer 2. It's going to ask you to drop it about 6 inches. Now, it says you don't have to be completely precise, but I actually did take a measurement, at least from the height, because I was trying to be as accurate as possible. But from there, all the other points are sort of approximate. I kind of called it sort of shoulders and elbows and just behind your head kind of thing. The system's going to throw out a sweep of tones, and the software is going to record that information. And then once it's all completed through the 3 different layers, that's really all there's left to do other than to save the preset within the ARC analysis software. From there, you're going to load up the plugin within your DAW, and you're going to place that on your master bus, and then you could call up the preset that you just created through the process of testing your system. And from there, it's going to give you the actual frequency response of your room and the recommended correction. Now, this is something that, like I said, it's a plugin you put on your master bus, and when you're mixing, you keep that on, but you got to remember to turn that off when you bounce out your track. It's just correcting the frequency response while you're mixing to, like I said, to compensate for some of those issues in your room. Well, I'm pretty excited. I'm going to finish off the test here, and let's see what the results are. All right, so I've completed the analysis, and I'm about to check out the frequency curve from my studio for the very first time. A little bit nervous here. All right, so the way it works is when I did save the setting from the analysis software, it actually saves as a preset here in ARC3. And now this plugin, you actually put it on your master bus, and I would put it as the very last plugin in the chain. So any processing you're doing on any track, and especially your master bus, will be completed. And then the acoustic correction will be applied at the very end. Now remember, once you're done your mix, you're going to turn that off. You don't want to include that in your mix. This is just adjusting what you hear through the speakers, helping you make better decisions. So it gives you a report based on the left and the right, and then it'll show you afterwards the correction that it's actually applying to the playback. So let's turn on the left channel first. Oh boy, look at this thing here. Wow, this is a big problem in the room. Now, let's go back to what I said at the beginning about coloration, or the effect of your equipment and the room on what you're hearing. Now, here's an example that, we're looking at about, 75 hertz up to, maybe 110 hertz. There's this huge notch here. What that means is that I'm actually not hearing that properly. So I'm there and I'm mixing and I'm listening. And I'm saying, I'm a little light here. It's sounding like I'm missing some frequencies here, whether let's say on a bass guitar or a drum or something like that, and I'm overcompensating, right? I'm going to do a big lift here because I'm not actually hearing this, where that's how it affects your mixes. And especially down here, why you get a lot of mud, where you're overcompensating for missing frequencies in the low end. You're just not hearing, and you're just trying to jack them up. But the truth is, they are there. You're just not hearing them. So this is a perfect example of coloration, or issues in a room that are affecting the mix decisions that you're making. I'm actually quite pleased. I'd say from about, 150, 160 hertz all the way up. A little notch on the top. That's to be expected. Little ups and downs here, but nothing too drastic. And I guess my acoustic panels are doing a pretty good job from here, almost all the way up. A couple little notches here, little too much here around close to 5K, 4-5K. But again, this is not too crazy. This big notch here is pretty nuts. And really low, down low. I don't have a subwoofer here in my system. I'm just using the 7-inch speakers here, so I'm not getting a lot of information there. So we'll turn on the right channel. I'm assuming it's not going to be that drastically different. Now, it pretty much follows the same path, and I'm sure there's a little bit of tolerance there depending on the placement of the microphone as I was moving it around, but as you can see, it follows the same path, so the results are pretty consistent. So now when we turn on after, we're going to see this acoustic correction that it's going to give us, that we'll have on while we're mixing. So let's turn that on. And you can see that straight line it's attempting to create. Now, it's a very honest report. It's not just giving us a straight line and telling us it's perfect. That's just not possible. Even in the best rooms in the world, we don't want them just absolutely sterile. There's going to be qualities in the room, and that's going to influence the sound of that mix. But you can visually see what it's trying to do. It's corrected a lot of that big dip here, like I said, between, let's say, 60 and 100 hertz here. A little bit of up and down there, but it's far better than it was before. And the bottom end, it's bringing up a little bit more, let's say about 30, 40 hertz, and then that drop of the really sub frequencies, which again is to be expected. Well, it's at this point you're probably wondering if I'm going to show you some before and afters of the acoustic correction in action. Now, while I flirted with the idea of doing that, I realized it's not going to make a lot of sense. To you, it's just going to sound like some random EQ adjustment, whereas here, it's compensating for issues specific to my room. So number one, I didn't think it would do ARC3 justice, and number two, I just don't really think it tells the story. What really does tell the story is just look at that graph and discovering the issues that I didn't know were present, and thanks to ARC3, I now have a solution to fix that issue. All right, back to the edit. But just doing a quick comparison, I'll turn the original off. You can see the correction here now. and compare that to what I actually have in my room. So that's going to make a really, really big difference. So when I'm mixing, I won't be overcompensating anymore for these areas. Just imagine you're trying to fix something, you're doing a mix, and then you take it to your car, or you're putting your earbuds, and it just doesn't translate. There's a good visual of why that's happening, is because you're overcompensating for problems in your room. So this is a really worthwhile exercise if you are having some issues and you've done acoustic treatment, you just can't seem to get to the next level. There's a good reason here in my studio why I wasn't making good decisions there, and we can see it here in black and white. Well, I have to say that I was really surprised by the results. In some ways, really happy. It seems that my panels are doing a really great job, really flattening out the curve on its own. Not perfect, but only requiring minimal correction. But down low, some of those issues that I was having, I kind of suspected them for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't have big speakers. I'm just using 7-inch speakers. Also, bass trapping, I do have them in the front of the room, but I don't have them in the back. So I suspected that I had some issues down there, but that big void down there, I honestly didn't expect that. So really interesting to discover that, and it does explain a lot. I mean, you can only guess so much, but it really helps if you can correct those frequencies. It's really going to speed up your mixes and help you make better critical decisions. And really, knowledge is the most important thing. There's no sense guessing, because in my case, I had no idea. So, and honestly, actually, the cost of this system, I should mention, in my dollars here, is about half of what I paid to put up all of my acoustic panels. Not to say it's going to replace acoustic panels, but certainly as an upgrade to take your studio to the next level, it's definitely worth a look. So I will put a link in the description, and if you do check it out, let me know in the comments. Well, if you're new to this channel, I hope I've earned a subscribe. I've got a ton of content on this channel, a lot of it revolving around this home studio, geared to the home studio enthusiast and the home recording musician, with videos to hopefully help make your home studio life better. So perhaps you can just click that subscribe button and come along for the ride. If you really want to support this channel, I am on Patreon. Links to everything I've discussed and some things I haven't are in the description below. And above all else, I hope I'll see you again in another video. As always, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And please like, subscribe, and ring that bell to stay up to date. Remember, you don't need a band to rock and roll. There are a lot of great musical projects you can do by yourself, right from your own home. I hope to see you again next time.